Good evening, everyone. Mike Palmer from Know Your Rights Group and Success Coaching International with a very special and very important bonus update, I guess you'd call it, this evening. Now, what's going to be a little bit different about tonight's video is that tonight I really want to focus on you, and I really want to get you guys thinking about things rather than me just giving you all the answers as I sort of tend to do on these updates. So, with that in mind, let's kick off with obviously the huge breaking news of today, and that of course is the report that at 8:30 a.m. this morning, police supposedly shot and killed Dezi Freeman. Now, in case you've been living under a rock or you just stay right away from the mainstream media and you haven't heard about that yet, this is what the media are reporting. So I'm just going to give you a couple of quick headlines tonight. So this says, Dezi Freeman shot by police in Victoria's northeast after 7-month manhunt. Now you notice there I've put the time 1:55, and I'll come back to that in a moment. Double cop killer Dezi Freeman has been shot dead by police after a 3-hour standoff. Now keep that in mind, 3-hour standoff at a remote property in Victoria's northeast that ended when he opened fire on heavily armed officers. Freeman was killed after confronting members of the elite Special Operations Group at a property at Thologalong near Walwa around 8:30 a.m. on Monday. His death follows a 7-month manhunt after he shot dead 2 police officers and wounded a third at a remote property in Porpunka in Victoria's High Country on August 26th. So that's what the media were reporting at 1:55 this afternoon. Now, if I've learned anything from history and significant events, that is to grab screenshots of everything as soon as the news breaks. We only need to look back at things like 9/11, Port Arthur, to see how quickly the stories changed after they originally broke. So why is it important in this particular instance? Well, let's have a look at what they were reporting at 10:49 a.m. just a few hours earlier. So again, this is from 7 News, as the last article was. As you can see, 10:49, it says what we know so far. So this is what they were reporting at that point. Victoria's most wanted fugitive, Dezi Freeman, has been shot dead by police, bringing a 7-month manhunt to an end. Officers from Victoria Police's elite Special Operations Group shot the double cop killer dead at a remote property at Thologalong near Walwa in the state's far northeast, 8:30 Monday. No officers were injured in the operation. So, how many officers were there at the operation? If he's only confronted them and no one was actually injured, why the need to shoot him dead? So we've already got some questions. Chief Commissioner Mike Bush confirmed a man had been fatally shot, but they were waiting for a formal identification process before declaring it was Freeman. They were pretty damn sure it was Freeman when he shot the 2 police, allegedly, back in August, but now all of a sudden they've got to go through a formal identification process to confirm that it's the same guy? Why the change? Freeman's death followed a 3-hour standoff from 5:30 a.m. to about 8:30 a.m. Again, I'm going to come back to that, where Freeman refused to surrender and eventually opened fire on police with one of his victims' handguns. So, according to this report, Dezi Freeman has kept one of the police officers' handguns for something like 7 months, hasn't used any of the bullets, and fired on them with some bullets apparently still in the rifle or the revolver, and shot at police 7 months later with the same gun. Not quite sure I believe that one. Freeman emerged from a structure, a cross between a shipping container and a makeshift caravan, believed to be draped in a blanket and holding the firearm. Now this is an interesting one. The families of officers Neil Thompson and Vadim de Wart Hotard were the first to be notified of Freeman's death. Investigators have also spoken with Freeman's wife, Marley Freeman. Now, since when is it normal standard police protocol to tell the family of victims that an alleged shooter, and again, remember, he is still alleged. He hasn't been to court. There's been no conviction. There's been no case run. So he's still only an alleged shooter. Since when is it proper police protocol to inform the family of the victims before the actual family of the person you just shot and killed? Again, something doesn't quite add up. Police will investigate who aided in the potential transport and harbouring of Freeman in the wake of the shooting. More than 2,000 leads, including potential sightings of Freeman, were supplied to police over the course of the investigation. None were confirmed. Now, unfortunately, there was another story that came out, or another part of an article that I saw. I didn't grab a screenshot of it at the time. I know, stupid. And that was from a supposed witness or person nearby who heard one shot. So was that the police shooting him, or was that him shooting at the police? And then if they only heard one shot, how did they kill him? So lots and lots and lots of questions and lots of things already just in a few hours simply don't add up. Now, more important than those inconsistencies, we then go over to 9 News. So again, another mainstream media channel, but all of a sudden, it's a very different story, or at least the beginning. So as you can see here, this is 9 News, straight off the 9 News Facebook post. This is printed straight out. And here's what it says. Officers reportedly spent several days coaxing Dezi Freeman out of his hiding place in Walwa. Hang on a minute. This report just said that they talked to him for 3 hours, from 5:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. So where are these guys getting the 3 days from? Okay. Where is this? Several days. Why is this the first that we've heard of it? If they did in fact spend several days trying to coax him out, if they'd spent several days trying to coax him out, why the need to shoot him dead? They claim he came and shot at them. Again, there's multiple officers from the Special Operations Group. They're heavily armed. They're heavily fortified. Okay? So even if he's taken one shot at them, why the need to shoot and kill him? Why not shoot him in the leg and take him into custody? Okay? Because, of course, as the old saying goes, dead men tell no tales. And unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of tales that we're never, ever going to hear about as a result of this now. So, again, 2 completely different mainstream media channels saying 2 significantly different things. And this is just what's happened already today. Let's see how it plays out through the rest of today and into the next few days as well. So, here is my first question for all of you watching tonight. Do you believe the police and the media that Dezi was killed today? Or do you believe that he was actually killed back on that fateful day in August last year, and this is just some kind of a cover for that? Or do you perhaps believe something entirely different? As always, feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below, because I'm sure this is going to be a hot topic, at least for the next few days. Now, just before we move on, I want to make it clear that I do not personally believe, and again, this is just my personal belief, okay, so don't shoot the messenger. I do not personally believe that the police, the media, and the governments lie all the time. Okay, if they did, it'd just be too easy because no one would ever believe anything that they ever said. Now, I can already see some of you going, yeah, Mike, that's pretty much correct. I think it's a little bit more, nuanced than that. I think what they do is they stretch and they twist the truth to suit a particular narrative that they're trying to push, but they do usually have elements of the truth still within that story to some degree or another. Now, unless, of course, they're being asked to push an underlying agenda, in which case they will stop at absolutely nothing, including blatantly lying, in order to support that agenda. Now, that is the line of thinking that I want to pursue next. So, just for a moment, I'm going to switch over into my success coaching mode. And I'm just going to share very quickly an example that I generally go through with my clients as a really basic goal setting understanding. So let's say you've got an old beat up old Commodore, okay, and your dream or your goal is to one day own a brand new Ferrari. So short of winning Tats Lotto, it's very unlikely that you're going to jump straight from the old Commodore straight into the brand new Ferrari. Instead, what's going to happen is you're going to do it in steps or in increments. So, for example, you might go from an old Commodore to an old BMW or an old Mercedes. Then you might jump into an old Porsche. Then you might upgrade to an old Ferrari. And then finally, that final step will be upgrading into that new Ferrari. You always have that ultimate goal in mind, and you're always working towards it step by step. Okay, that's what successful people do. So I'm going to urge you all to look at governments in the same way. Now, we all yell and decree and cry, they're corrupt and they're horrible and they're this, that, and everything else. But they are very successful in achieving the outcomes that they want to achieve. Does nothing to help us, of course, but as far as governments go, they are very successful, and that's the process that they use. So they've all got their own goals, and they all have their own agendas that they're always working towards all of the time. Okay. Now, if you haven't looked up Agenda 2030, I urge you, please make sure you do that. There's a link going up, hopefully in the description or the comments right now. It is all spelt out in black and white. They are not even trying to hide anything from you. Go and look up what it's all about, because that Agenda 2030, that is the government's equivalent of that new Ferrari. That's what they're ultimately working towards. So what we're dealing with right here and now, this whole fuel crisis situation, that's just one of the smaller steps along that path. So what I want you all to do is just to think back, or look back if you want to go back to one of the previous videos that I did when all of this started. Okay, I said very, very clearly there was no direct threat to Australia here, because of the war over in Iran. But as I explained, what would be an absolute threat was how the government reacted to that situation and how they might twist and turn things to suit their particular agenda. And I think we've all very clearly seen the results of that over the past few weeks with all of these, insanely escalating fuel prices. I mean, let's keep in mind, Japan, for example, still only paying, $1 for a litre of fuel. So it's not that there's actually any fuel problem, okay? It's just how the government's dealing with it. They're pushed towards EVs and all those sorts of things that are all in line with that overall agenda. Now, at the same time, I also told people, make sure you keep your cars filled. Go and fill up a few extra jerry cans if you can as well. Hopefully most of you did that, and you hopefully managed to save a little bit of money over the past few weeks, buying fuel at the right time and of course at the right places, whenever people had them at the correct prices. So today came the announcement from the Australian government that the fuel excise is to be halved. Now, this, of course, is something that people have been screaming out for, quite a lot over the past few weeks. So, there it is. So this is the article here. Fuel excise to be halved, road user charge slashed. Albanese. Motorists will start to see some relief at the Bowser from Wednesday in a move the coalition said was overdue. Anthony Albanese has urged Australians not to cancel their Easter getaways amid escalating fuel pressures as he announced a cut in fuel excise. A 50% reduction of the excise would reduce the cost of fuel by 26.3 cents per litre, the Prime Minister told reporters on Monday, meaning a $16 reduction when filling up a 60-litre tank. We are making fuel cheaper today because we understand that Australians are under serious pressure, Mr Albanese said. You think? There's the understatement of the year. It came days after Treasurer Jim Chalmers ruled out cutting the excise. What do you know? Saying it was not being considered by the government despite pressure from the opposition to do the same. So there you have it in black and white. Now, I told everybody just on Thursday night's video, the government loves you, the government cares about you. They've just cut the fuel excise by half. People didn't believe me. Crazy people. Now, in all seriousness though, we do need to think about this sensibly and logically, okay? Fuel prices will start coming down in the short term. They're saying that we're going to see the prices reduced by Wednesday. I've seen a couple of places have already reduced by just a couple of cents a litre. But over the next week, that fuel price will slowly but surely start to come down. So now is not the time to buy any more fuel. Okay, run your vehicles down as low as you can. If you've got jerry cans, now is the time to pour those jerry cans into your car and run on those for the next few days. And then once that price has come down significantly, then you can fill your cars back up. Then you can fill those jerry cans back up. Okay, and you will have saved a significant amount of money. And of course, then you'll be prepared for the next step in their plan. Now, I can already see people out there going, well, what's the next step, Mike? All right, before we get to that, let's just have another very quick look, okay, at that last line that I just read out from that last article. It came days after Treasurer Jim Chalmers ruled out cutting the excise, saying it was not being considered by the government, despite pressures from the opposition to do the same. So, by their own admissions in black and white, they ruled out cutting back that fuel excise, and then just 2 days later, they did exactly what they said they weren't going to do. So, do you think it might make sense to have a look at what they're now currently ruling out, which of course might indicate what they might actually do next? Seems to make sense, doesn't it? Well, here is what they're saying. And here's two articles that say exactly the same thing. So the first one here, Albo sends his clearest message yet on COVID-style fuel mandates. What's on crisis talks agenda? Anthony Albanese has drawn a clear line in the sand as Australia braces for a deepening fuel crisis, vowing the country will not return to COVID-style government mandates. With demand surging and states warning that supplies are under strain, the Prime Minister moved to steady public nerves ahead of a crucial National Cabinet meeting on Monday. He has ruled out enforced restrictions on Australians' movements or limits on fuel use, despite growing political pressure for decisive federal intervention. Instead, the government is more focused on supply measures to keep Australians moving. We will get through this. We are not going down the path of COVID-style mandated demand management measures, Anthony Albanese told the Sunday Telegraph. So, very, very clear, we are not going to do this. Now, let's have a look at the next article. Similar thing. Anthony Albanese rules out COVID-style mandates as state and territory leaders hold fuel crisis talks. Australia's state and territory leaders will meet today for emergency fuel crisis talks to tackle the country's dwindling oil supply after the federal government ruled out enforcing COVID-style rules. It is understood leaders are desperate to avoid a repeat of the COVID-19 pandemic when states and territories took individual approaches to the unfolding disaster. PM Anthony Albanese, however, has denied there will be any COVID-style mandates on the table after urging Australians to avoid panic buying fuel. I don't want things to be mandated. Common sense should apply as well, Albanese said yesterday. I don't want things to be mandated. Not quite the same as saying that they won't be. But, again, both of those articles are pretty clear in what they're saying. We are not considering or we are ruling out COVID-style fuel mandates. Just like they said 2 days ago, they were ruling out cutting back on the excise tax. So, my next question for you is, what do you make of it? Do you believe that history has repeatedly shown us that when our leaders categorically tell us one thing, that more often than not, it turns out to be the complete opposite? Or do you think they're actually telling the truth this time? Well, before you answer, and again, you're welcome to share your thoughts in the comments section, but before you do, I just want to give you a couple of other things just to consider. Now, firstly, there was that post that I shared with everybody on Thursday night's video that said that fuel lockdowns were coming in as of the 14th of April. There would be limits to how much fuel people could buy. Travel would be limited to essential services only, and a few other points. Now, as I also said on the same video, I personally, again, I could be wrong, but I personally don't think that all those suggestions are practical or realistic. Okay, they can't close supermarkets and force people to use delivery services, which is one of the other points that was raised in that post. They can't limit people to just $20 worth of fuel every 2 days. And again, certainly not in regional areas. Now, apart from the logistical impossibility, the law also simply doesn't allow for it. Now, yes, that Liquid Fuel Emergency Act of 1984 that I've mentioned on a few videos recently does allow for certain restrictions if a fuel emergency is actually announced. But even if that happens, they can't lock people down in their homes. They can't force them to use delivery services to get groceries and things like that. Now, that act does allow them to restrict fuel purchases, and it does allow the government to restrict how fuel is used to a certain degree. Now, they can certainly encourage work from home concepts, but they can't legally enforce them. Now, that, of course, then brings us to the next point, and that is just because the government can't legally do something doesn't, of course, mean that they won't try. Now, we certainly saw that happen during COVID. Now, again, the key to remember here is that they don't need everyone to abide by whatever new rules they bring in, just the majority. They didn't need everyone to get jabbed. They didn't need everyone to wear masks. They just needed the majority of people to do it so that everybody else was seen like an outcast. Okay? They don't need everybody to get rid of cash as long as the majority of people don't use it. People who still use cash are seen as outsiders or weirdos. So this is potentially the same angle. They're not going to force everybody to not buy fuel, but they're going to encourage it through potentially certain restrictions. And then anyone who does go out and buy fuel and use it for other purposes is going to be the outcast and frowned upon. So, having said that, there are ways that by default, okay, these fuel lockdowns can come in, but whether it's in the way that people are actually suggesting on their posts, or there's a lot of social media comment, or of course, the other thing is, was that post meant to go viral just to see how people would react? So here's another thing just to consider as you're thinking about this. As I've said on the last few videos over the past 3 weeks, the government has consistently assured us there's nothing to worry about, there's plenty of fuel. Yet despite those assurances, they've ordered the release of the 100 million litres a month of dirty fuel. They brought in the legislation to stop or to try and stop price gouging, which of course has achieved absolutely nothing. Then of course they ordered the release of Australia's fuel reserves. Now, despite all of those actions, prices have continued to increase on an almost daily basis. Fuel theft has gone through the roof. Private truck owners are just parking their trucks up and refusing to do deliveries. Farmers can't get the diesel that they need for their basic farming needs. Okay, and the media is already, as I said just on Thursday, talking about potential grocery supply issues, or at the very least, increased grocery prices. So here we have today where the government has come out and said they're halving the fuel excise. But my question to you now is, what if that doesn't work? What if petrol stations continue to run out of fuel? What if all the problems that we've been seeing over the past few weeks continue to escalate despite all of these new measures? Well, maybe then, with all of those steps having taken place, then the government has the option to introduce fuel restrictions and potential lockdowns, even if only by default per se. Okay, they could basically turn around at that point and say, hey, we really didn't want to do this. which of course we know they did. We tried everything, but unfortunately it just didn't work. We have to keep our farmers going. We have to keep our essential services going. And the only way that we can do that is to impose some kind of rationing or lockdowns, but just for a short period, just a couple of weeks to, slow the curve or whatever the rubbish was that they used to say during COVID. Now, the problem is that if they framed it in that way with all of those steps they've taken, many people, in fact, probably the majority of people, would actually comply. And I think the reason that they are flat out denying that possibility now is they don't want people to panic, or take to the streets, which of course they would right now if it was announced just before Easter. So by trying these other measures for a few weeks and saying, go enjoy Easter and have a great time, if they still don't work, then they've got justification for taking those next few steps. Now, as always, as I say all the time, I don't have a crystal ball, but I definitely do see further fuel restrictions and some sort of a lockdown at some level as being a distinct possibility. So that brings me to my final question for you this evening, and that is simply this. If you knew, let's say you knew that the COVID lockdowns were coming before they came in, what would you have done differently? Same thing here. If you knew that fuel restrictions and or fuel lockdowns of some description were coming within the next 2 weeks, what would you do differently? Would you take a certain trip? Would you go somewhere special? Would you go and visit a friend or family member or loved one? Would you go and buy a bike in case you needed to get around cheaply? Would you find a way to store a little bit of extra fuel just in case of an emergency, or an endless list of other things? What would you do now? And maybe just start to really give that some thought and really consider, based on the balance of probabilities or possibilities, however you want to word it, whether it might be doing that thing or those things, given what there is a lot of chatter about right now. I can already see a lot of businesses struggling. I've seen the police out in droves in just the past few days, raising revenue for the government like crazy. Usually they wait till the Easter long weekend, but they've been out in force. I saw something like 5 cops in a 1-hour drive today. So do they know something that we don't? Are there going to be less cars on the road in a few weeks, so they need to raise whatever revenue they can now? Is the government about to have some huge additional expense, fuel lockdown payments? So they're trying to raise whatever they can in order for those. Again, I don't know. Maybe you've seen similar things. Let us know in the comments. But do give some thought to what you might do if you knew this was coming, and maybe consider doing it now. Now, as I said, I don't know what's coming, but I do know this. With everything that's going on right now, the last thing, that people can afford is an unjust or unlawful traffic fine. So at the very least, please make sure you take advantage of that 20% off Easter promotion that the Aussie speeding fines guys are running. Grab a copy of their book. You can go straight to chapter 3. You can use their tried, tested and proven 3-step process to successfully challenge any manner of unjust and unlawful fines. Doesn't just have to be traffic fines, can be any types of fines. They've been used on COVID fines and all sorts of things. But the last thing you want to be doing right now is paying a fine that you really don't need to. The other thing that I know for sure is that people need to stop burying their head in the sand and ignoring fines and just hoping that they're going to go away. They won't, And they're going to keep escalating and getting worse the longer you leave them. But again, once you have those 25 pro forma letters that are all part of that ebook membership, you're never going to have to worry about fines again. Now, similarly, you can also stop worrying about your unsecured loans, things like your personal loans and your credit cards. Again, you can take advantage of the similar 20% off Easter promotion that the Bank Secrets Reveal guys are running on their book. And again, they've got their tried, tested and proven system for eliminating or discharging unsecured loans, credit cards, personal loans in that book. So be sure to grab that as well. And finally, the other thing that I know for sure is that when people are stressed mentally, emotionally, especially financially, they make bad decisions, okay? And those bad decisions can sometimes cost them a lot more in the long run. So again, with the Easter break just around the corner, take advantage of our 20% offer, okay, on all of our physical products. So that includes things like our ebook, this essential step-by-step manual for understanding and exercising your rights. It also includes things like our webinar USBs, our webinars on DVD. It even includes all of our combo packs. It includes that brand new cost of living survival pack that we just put out the other week. Includes things like our home study course, which is a complete recording of one of our recent 2.5-day live events. And even though it's not a physical product, we have chosen to also extend that to our upcoming webinar series as well. So you'll find all of those links going up in the comments and in the description. Again, just enter the word Easter into the coupon code box and you get extra 20% off all of those things as well. And of course, don't forget, from the Know Your Rights point of view, any orders over $100 also get one of our tote bags included as a little bonus. Just, nice little thing to go and pick up all your Easter eggs in or something like that. I know it's not much, but it's always nice to get something for free. Now, just to clarify, that's on orders for physical products that need to be posted, and it's the order value, not the postage, because of course, we actually charge less than it costs us. So pop in an extra, pop in an extra cap if your order's not quite there. Pop in an extra CD or DVD, get that order over 100, get that little extra bonus thrown in for you as well. All right, so I am going to finish off with just a couple of memes. I don't have heaps tonight because it was a little bit of a bonus video that I've just sort of put together last minute. But again, this is one that's been doing the rounds. Warnings of this 50% food price hike due to all of the fuel crisis. So this is well and truly on the cards. Again, just go and stock up with a little bit extra here and there as and when you can, just to give you a little bit of breathing room for if you do see a significant spike there. Good old Kath and Kim. I know there's some people out there go, oh, it doesn't worry me, fuel pricing, that's not so much. I only ever put $20 in. Yeah, think about it, people. Come on now. All right, and then look, we've made a lot of calls a lot of calls over the last 11 years, but especially over the last year or so. We've talked about various things that people might consider conspiracies, Dezi Freeman and all the rest of it. So as you can see there's the conspiracy theorist collecting the I told you so medals since 2020. And I'm sure a lot of you watching this video have your own very good collection of medals as well. All right, so I'm going to leave things there for tonight. As always, I do urge you to please make use of all the resources that are available to please get informed, get fired up, and get proactive. We clearly really do need that more this year than ever before. There's lots of completely free information on our websites. These videos, as always, completely free to watch on our BitChute channel, our YouTube channel, and of course the Reels tab on our Facebook page. Just a reminder, there's no live radio show tomorrow night, but we will be replaying last week's show with a lot of really good information. Daryl's given his detailed thoughts on what he thinks the whole Iran war is really all about. Darren shares his views on what he thinks is going to happen over the coming weeks and months, so be sure to listen to that show between 8 and 10 p.m. if you missed it live. Otherwise, I will be back again on a Thursday night just before Easter with another normal standard live video update. So I look forward to speaking to you all then. Until then, take care and good night.